Welcome to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast, where stories bloom from local flower fields and home gardens. I'm your host, Jennifer Gulizia of the Flowering Farmhouse. I'm a backyard gardener turned flower farmer located in Hood River, Oregon. Join us for heartfelt journeys shared by flower farmers and backyard gardeners. Each episode is like a vibrant garden, cultivating wisdom and joy through flowers. From growing your own backyard garden to supporting your local flower farmer, the Backyard Bouquet is your fertile ground for heartwarming tales and expert cut flower growing advice. All right, flower friends, grab your gardening gloves, garden snips, or your favorite vase because it's time to let your backyard bloom. Hey, flower friends, and welcome back to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome back one of our most requested guests, Lennie Larkin of B-Side Farm. And if you love growing flowers, but the selling side still makes your head spin, then today's episode is for you. Lennie is a seasoned flower farmer, educator, and the author of Flower Farming for Profit, a book that's inspired growers across the country to approach their farms with clarity, purpose, and confidence. She's someone who deeply understands the realities of turning a passion for flowers into a livelihood that's both creative and sustainable. In today's conversation, we'll explore the what and the why behind selling your flowers, what it really means to step inside the role of a grower and seller, and why understanding your values, boundaries, and goals matter long before you price your first bouquet. So whether you're growing on a few backyard beds or on a few acres, this conversation will help you get inspired to sell your flowers confidently and authentically. So Lennie is here today to share about her free upcoming Sell Your Flowers Summit that's taking place this month. And I can't wait to have Lennie share more about it with us today. So without further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hey, Lennie, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Jen, thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be back here with you. Appreciate
It's
it.
great to have you back. It's been fun. This last year, I've had a chance to connect with you a few times. You've helped mentor us on our new farm, and I joined your cohort for your wedding. What was the exact title of that? I apologize.
We called it Your First 10 Weddings. It was my first time running that program. I was so psyched that you joined. It was so fun to have a friendly face in the room. I loved that program.
It was awesome. It was great. I got a lot of good information because I've always wholesaled my flowers.
Right.
So it's fun to look into the possibility of, now that we have a larger farm, being able to offer more services to our clients.
Yeah.
So I was looking at my calendar, and it's been almost a year to the date since you joined us on the podcast to talk about your book, Flower Farming for Profit. And now there's some new exciting things that you reached out and you said, hey, can I come back and join you today? So do you want to tell us what you're up to now?
Yes. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I'm thanking you. Jen, thank you for being here on your podcast. Thank you for having me. Yeah, a year. The year is just like flying by in my mind. It feels like so much has happened this year, but really I've just been here in my office all year plodding away on all my courses and coaching programs. And, more than anything, to step back for a second. So I am now a full-time business coach for small scale flower farmers. And, people know me for talking about numbers a lot, for encouraging people to charge more for their flowers, to figure out their pricing, to think about their numbers. But more even than numbers, in recent years, I've become a sales and marketing coach for flower farmers. So I'm really focused on selling, sales, marketing, pricing, finding your customers, and being strategic about it. So this has become probably my biggest focus, with another small focus on crop planning in there. But it's mainly because this is the type of question I get asked all the time. I've taught, we just counted about 1,300 students ever since I started counting, which was about 2 years ago. And the
Wow.
bulk of the questions that come my way from new flower farmers, so either those just starting and dreaming or maybe a few years into farming, their questions are about finding new customers, about charging enough or what to charge, about how to wrap their head around marketing and selling, because most of these new farmers are like me and probably like you too, Jen, like started farming because we want to be growing flowers, not because we want to be thinking about how to sell them. And so have been, taking notes on this idea of mine to have this online summit for the past few years. And I really grew up in this industry speaking at conferences and planning conferences. I spoke at my first conference in 2014, my first ASCFG conference, and then quickly joined their board and was a big part of planning conferences with them for a number of years. And then I put on things on my own. So I've been putting together these events, and I was planning this summit for a while, and it started to take shape as one that's focused around selling your flowers. There's tons that I teach about when it comes to growing your flowers, but really, as you know, I'm focused on the business side of it and how to sell your flowers, how to find and cultivate great customers, to get the word out. This is such a big focus of mine, such a big pain point for my students and for new farmers. And there's still just a gap out there of educational resources for people, of what's working in 2025, really 2026 and beyond, when it comes to selling your flowers as a small scale flower farmer. So what started as the Flower Farm Sales and Marketing Summit turned into the Sell Your Flowers Summit, which is the name and the concept that I landed on. So I'm so excited for this summit. I'm having trouble knowing how to even talk about it because there's so many components that I'm equally excited about. I brought in not only people from our industry, but also from outside our industry, sales coaches, marketing coaches, to give really short, poignant, punchy talks. And we'll talk about this more throughout the interview today, because I know we're here to talk about kind of selling your flowers in general. But this event is taking place on November 20th, 21st, and 22nd. It's 3 days. And there are free tickets available, as well as upgrades to an all access pass that gets you lifetime access. Yeah, Jen, I can't wait. I'm so excited for this summit.
I can tell that you are so passionate about this, and it's neat to see your career evolve to another level where you kind of mastered being a flower farmer. You had a very successful career growing and selling your flowers, and now you're paying that forward and helping other people so that they can have the same success that you have experienced. Can we talk about mindset a little bit about that? It's so easy to
Yes.
fall in love with growing our flowers. Like, I mean, who doesn't love flowers? Everyone is like, oh, you've got the best job in the world. But you only have the best job in the world if you're actually selling them and making it profitable. Otherwise, it starts to get stressful. So, a lot of people, I think, get their start because they love flowers. It's not like, I'm going to go sell flowers and make a bunch of money. It's like, I'm going to grow flowers because I really love them. And then there's kind of this moment of, oh crap, I've got so many flowers. My family doesn't want more flowers in the house. I can't give these all away. Can I actually make money with these? And it's kind of a defining moment for someone where they get that question in their mind and they're like, well, can I do this? Should I do this? It's that she can do that, so why can't I kind of moment.
Yeah.
How does someone know when that moment hits that they're actually ready to start selling their flowers?
Yeah, great point and great question. Well said. In my experience, when you first feel that itch, ooh, maybe I could make a business out of this. Maybe I could do more than just give flowers away to my family and then my friends and neighbors, right? If you first feel that calling and you feel that itch, it's not going to go away. I haven't talked to I've probably talked to 3 people ever who didn't end up going down this road once it occurred to them to go down the road. That's not to say that everyone stays in business. And I'm the first to sort of be real about this and speak out against the dangers of going into this industry and creating a business when it's actually quite a challenging road to go down. It's not all rainbows and butterflies, of course. It is hard work. But if you have the calling, and I feel okay calling, it is a calling, no matter what is calling you to do this, it's not going to go away. And so I think starting to lean into it and dream big and dive in, and then follow that up with some education for yourself and some strategy to get going. But if you have the itch, it's not going to go away. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news if you're out there and this is you. But another defining moment that I've found with all of my students, so many of my students and people I hear from on Instagram and in my, email list and all of this, is you're growing flowers, you love growing flowers, you've already decided to make a business out of this. So maybe you're a little bit down the road from that first moment of like, could I do this? And you're doing it. But I hear this from so many people. The selling and marketing and knowing what to charge makes me so nervous. So I'm going to sort of put my head down, keep working on growing the flowers, and figure out the sales and marketing later. And this isn't even something that people fully articulate out loud. It's more like after some digging and all my coaching sessions, I figure out that this is what's going on for people. And to tell you the truth, this is what happened for me too. I didn't have a plan of where I was going to sell my flowers. I didn't have sales goals. I didn't have any idea how to build a connection with my followers or my customers or start building an email list. I didn't even know that was like something I needed to start doing. And so I just totally had my head in the sand. I'm going to keep growing flowers. And by doing it, it means I'm going to get better at it every day and every year. And if you'd asked me then what my strategy was to build this into a real business and to get the flowers sold, I would have told you, I probably would have blushed and I probably would have looked sheepish and I probably eventually would have said, I don't know, I'll figure that out later. Or like, it'll work itself out. Or I'll get to that soon. And the thing is, this is kind of the harsh truth. You won't just figure out how to get your flowers sold and how to build a business. It's magical thinking. The idea that you are going to become a better business owner or build a thriving business without focusing on the selling part. It's sort of nonsense, but it's understandable nonsense, So you can be growing flowers for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and you are getting better at the growing part because you're practicing it every day. You're transplanting so many times throughout the year. You're cutting hundreds or thousands of stems. So, of course, you're getting faster and more efficient. But if you're not flexing muscles when it comes to sales and marketing, if you're not building those skills, trying things out, seeing what works and what doesn't, you're not going to get better at the selling. So it means you're going to grow more and more flowers without anything to do with them. And meanwhile, you're burning out, you're losing money. So to circle back to the original question, really, what we need to do as flower farmers is start thinking about not just how to grow the flower, but how to sell it. And I promise you, it's fun. This is as fun as growing the flowers. And this is coming from a lifelong hippie who never thought I'd become a business owner, never thought I'd have ambitions about making a certain amount of money or anything that I've managed to accomplish in building this business and just providing for myself in this way. And the biggest, I feel rich in that I don't have to go out and find another day job anymore. And that's how I felt once I scaled and built my flower farm too. I wasn't looking to make a killing. We don't make a killing in this industry. But my dream was to not have to scurry around and figure out how to pay my bills. It used to be paying my rent and now it's paying my mortgage. I eventually did that off of my farm. And now, of course, I'm a full-time coach and the farm is sort of scaled back down because it turns out I'm not Superwoman and I can't do both at once, build a new farm and build a new education business. But yeah, it's so important to focus on flexing these business person sales skills from the beginning, even in small bite-sized ways.
That's such great advice. Now, I'm thinking back to when I first got into flowers or when I decided I was going to make some money off of selling them.
Yeah.
For me, it was I heard one of my florists, because I was a wedding photographer, and I told them when I delivered some pictures, I said, I grow all of these flowers. And this florist said, well, what do you do with them? And I was like, I don't know. I give them away. And they said, well, did you know that we buy local flowers? And that was the aha moment for me where I was like, oh, but what I did that first year is I bought a bunch of cheap seeds. And I know the normal analogy is like you throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Well, for me, it was like I took a bunch of seeds. This was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually, well, this was 2018. So in 2018, I bought some cheap seed packets and I like scattered them in my front yard. I'm like, well, whatever grows is what I'm going to try and sell this year. And then I was like, I'm going to just figure out who to sell to. There's so many people entering the market. And the one thing with flowers that I think really can be confusing for people is it's not like you go into, I'm trying to think of even an example. My mind's having a brain freeze right now, but like we don't have one thing. Like you don't just go and say, you look at it and you get a flower catalog and it's not one type of flower you can grow. There's 80 different flower varieties. And then there's 20 different ways that you can sell your flowers. Where should someone even start? Like,
Yeah.
what's the first thing they should ask themselves?
Yeah. I love that. Great question. And so I took similar questions to that and brought them to this summit. And we have one talk in particular. So I'm giving this particular talk about,
Oh, perfect.
yeah, like the reality of where to sell your flowers if you're just getting started these days. And I didn't want this conference to be a summit conference, same thing. I didn't want it to be long sessions and an overview of here are all the ways you might sell your flowers. And, I do that in my book, but it's not, I do go deeper and give you a sense of the cost benefit analysis of, say, doing a farmer's market versus doing weddings. But for this summit, I wanted to really bring my point of view to the forefront. And this isn't because I think I'm all that. It's because I'm our industry's full-time business coach. I've worked with so many farmers. I work with farmers in coaching groups every single week out of the year. So I've gotten to see exactly what's working and what's not working. And that's led me to have a really evolved, nuanced, I'm trying to think of a better word. Like the word wise popped into mind, but again, that makes it sound like I think I'm, you know, the bomb. I do not. It's just that I have worked with so many farmers that I now have this sense of perspective, and I wanted to take that perspective and infuse it into every part of this summit. So I didn't invite speakers and say, you have free reign, give a talk on whatever you want. I gave them a very specific subject and often a title and, based on what their skills are and, so all to say, this specific talk is called something like, forget what I ended up calling it, like where to sell your flowers in 2026. But this is sort of a hot take. It's that we don't need to overthink this in the beginning. We don't need to think about all of these avenues that we could potentially sell flowers and then start to do the thing of like, well, what do I like to do? And am I a people person or not? And do farmers markets fit with my lifestyle or do weddings fit with my lifestyle? Like there's so much you're going to learn about yourself throughout the process of building your flower farm. And you're going to end up selling flowers in so many ways. So I think doing all that work before you've even started of deciding where to sell, it doesn't need to be a huge undertaking. What flower farmers need to do if they're starting right now is find one way of selling that's getting in front of someone else's audience that they've already built, and then eventually bring on a second way of selling where you're bringing people to you. So the first way of selling, plain and simple, it should be either a farmer's market or pop-ups at another business. Probably not both, probably just one. And you might know the answer if you're just getting started and you're looking around and you have a kind of a thriving farmer's market near you and they have openings and they would let you in. That's probably your answer. And this is funny because I've also gotten some shade over the years because people think I'm like anti-farmers market. And I'm not at all. I just call it like it is, and I'm not afraid of saying the truth around this, which is that most flower farmers don't end up staying at farmers markets. For most of us, it eventually, that cost benefit analysis gets flipped on its side, and we realize that we're spending so much time at the farmers market, preparing for the farmers market. And unless your sales are through the roof, it's probably not going to pay off for the long run. But to launch a farm, to get you started, it's the best way. So let me say this even more clearly. If you're a new flower farmer, for next year, for 2026, you should either be looking to sell at a farmer's market or you should be looking to partner with a local business like a coffee shop and do pop-ups at that shop, maybe a few shops. But this is, if you don't have, especially if you don't have a name for yourself, which most of us don't, if you don't have if you're not like really, really connected to your local community, and even if you are connected to your local community, a lot of us are introverts. A lot of us are shy. It's pretty scary to try selling your flowers. So, it's easier said than done. Like, just sell to the people you know. So, really, we need to think of one way of selling that's getting out there in front of someone else's audience. So that's the premise of one talk I'm giving at the summit, exactly how to do that. I'm giving another talk of exactly how to pitch yourself to local businesses to collaborate with them doing pop-ups or selling flowers, and we have another session. I'll get back to the question here, but we have another session with two of my students talking about how they have sold tons of their own flowers through PTA fundraisers with their kids' school. And
Oh,
so I
cool.
wanted to give not only like sales strategy at this summit, but really specific examples of how flower farmers right now in the modern era are getting out into their networks and selling flowers. So, yeah, we don't need to overthink this in the beginning. And most of us, if you're just starting, you're probably pretty small, which means you need to be selling to that end consumer, as we call it. You're not selling to florists. You're not selling to a wholesaler. You'll never make enough money doing that if you're a super, super small scale. So we need to be often growing and making mixed bouquets and selling them to the end consumer. And that's where you're going to find them, at the farmer's market where there's already people shopping and walking by, or at the coffee shop or yoga studio or wine bar as a pop-up.
So you recommend starting as a new farmer in someone else's market where they already have an audience. I love that mindset. So whether that's the pop-up or the farmer's market, and then the goal with that
Yeah,
is to build an email list, build a following of people so that they know who you are. And then at that point, you decide what route you want to take, or what do you recommend for the next steps on that?
exactly. Either every Saturday you're at the farmer's market, or every other Tuesday you're doing a pop-up at the coffee shop, whatever it is. Just like you said, Jen, you're collecting email addresses, you're getting social media followers, you're creating content, you're taking pictures and video just so you have it and you can start to build your online presence, right? And you're staying in touch with those people and you're cultivating them to really become great customers of yours by storytelling. You're bringing them in and telling them the story of your farm, even if your farm is barely started. That's interesting to people. I know, flower farmers come to me and they say, I don't have anything to say yet. I don't really have anything to take pictures of. I'm just starting. I'm starting a few seeds in my bathroom, or I have a few raised beds. And I tell them that is super interesting. Think of all the people you already know who would love to live vicariously through what you're doing. So you're starting to build that connection and telling the story of your farm as it grows. And we have talks at the summit devoted to how to do that authentically, both from a few marketers as well as from a few flower farmers. And you are kind of bringing them into your world, staying connected with them over email, over social media, in person when you see them, so that when you're finally ready to say, listen, I'm starting a farm stand or I'm starting a subscription, those people will follow you. And so they'll keep going to the farmer's market for their veggies, or they'll keep going to the coffee shop for their coffee. But maybe in a year or two, you are no longer selling at that place because you have brought them back to your farm, essentially. And whether or not you can actually host them on your farm, because a lot of people are small or urban and can't do that, but you're selling to them without needing kind of an intermediary of another business. Yeah.
What's the benefit of bringing them from a place like the farmer's market to your farm?
Yeah. So I love farm stands. You know that. I teach a farm stand course that is less about all of the different options of what you might do with a farm stand, and it's more proven results. Here's what actually works, like really nitty gritty stuff. Like, here is my template for a checkout sheet that you need everyone to fill out when they're leaving the farm stand, and here's how exactly to make sure they actually leave you their email address. Here's exactly how to fine tune your pricing in a strategic way so that you're getting $25 from each customer rather than $10 from each customer. Like, really nitty gritty specific stuff on how to have a successful farm stand. But farm stands aren't for absolutely everyone. That's why I mentioned the subscription as another option, or it could be online sales on your website. But really, it's that you are maintaining that direct connection with your customer, and you're not needing to spend more time or more of your budget give any of that to either the farmer's market or the coffee shop. Um, it, it's so wonderful to see this community you're building around your farm grow, and your profit will increase once you no longer need to be spending time at the farmer's market or doing the pop-up. And maybe you continue doing one of those. Not everyone stops the farmer's market. Not everyone stops doing the pop-up, but they're at that point serving different goals, right? Maybe you're still doing pop-ups with the goal of getting in front of new people, getting new eyeballs on your business, but the people who have become your biggest raving fans, they're starting to shop at your farm stand. And so you're starting to diversify your business in that way. But you can see it's really smart, strategic diversification. Not, I'm going to see if I can do weddings, and I'm going to see if I can do a farmer's market, and I'm going to offer DIY buckets. It's no, I sell it in my farm stand because I've built my reputation, and there's a group of 10 to 50 people who shop with me every week at my farm stand. So that's my way of making sales. That's my way of selling the bulk of my product. That's my way of a really low lift way of selling. There aren't many expenses associated with selling through a farm stand. You make the bouquets, you put them on the table, and then you're still maybe doing the pop-up, but that's to get in front of new customers, to get your name out there. You can see that as like your marketing budget. So you've diversified, but in a super, super streamlined, strategic way.
Thank you. What are some of the misconceptions about what it really means to sell flowers successfully?
Yes. I think the biggest myth, and no one says this out loud, I sort of alluded to it earlier, but the flowers are never going to sell themselves. You're never going to build a farm stand, open it. You could have the most beautiful flowers in the world, and they're not just going to sell. And like I said earlier, you are not going to magically figure this out unless you start actively trying to figure it out from day one, I work with so many farmers, and this was me as well, who it wasn't until year 3, 4, 5 that they realized, you know what, I need to get as serious with the selling of the flowers as I am with the growing of the flowers. Because until then, you're working 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, weeding your fields, tending to these flowers, pinching these flowers, researching these flowers, and you're treating the selling side of the business as an afterthought. Really, it's like half of your business, and you should maybe be spending even half your time working on it. But once we get there, people don't know what to do. They're like, okay, well, what does that mean? And of course, that's why I created the summit. That's what I teach in Flower Farming Business Academy, how to start making sales, how to start building this connection with your customers, how to start an email list, what to even say in these emails. Let's move on to, the second myth that I see, which is that to do well or to dive into flower sales, that you're going to come off as pushy or salesy or inauthentic. And that does not have to be the case. You can actually absolutely be 100% you and still, I'm going to use the word aggressively sell your flowers. This doesn't mean you're being aggressive to any person out there. This doesn't ever mean you're saying, listen, you need a bouquet today. Do you know why you need this bouquet? Let me tell you. It's never a used car salesman. It's never force feeding someone. It is simply creating a connection, telling your story in a way that resonates with other people, and reminding people that you have flowers for sale, but in different, interesting ways. You can do this and not betray your morals. You can do this and not lower your standards. You can do this and not piss off your friends and family and community. You're not you planting your flag in the ground and announcing that you have a business is not overbearing. It's not taking up too much space in the world. It's not you being greedy. It's not you being a capitalist. It's you saying, I want to do this project with my one precious life. And to do this, I need to think about what makes humans buy things. That's the missing link, you know? So let me work on how I can not only become a better grower, but become a better connector, connecting to my customers and potential customers, and then eventually selling to them. I think maybe there's one more myth that I would share, which is that keeping your prices low is a kind and supportive thing to do for your community. You know, most of the flower farmers that I work with are do-gooders. They're people pleasers. They're givers. Most of them are mothers. Most of them are coming from another career in caregiving. It's sort of wild. Like, this is such a trend that I see. You're either coming from nursing or social work, or maybe retiring from being a teacher or leaving your career as a teacher. Some beautiful profession, and you've been a caregiver and a caretaker for so long. And now I find that these farmers start to feel this itch of wanting to create something for themselves, but also to give back to their community. But I find that there's this disconnect. You're coming from this other career or other job, or from taking care of your kids. And you're like, you know what? I want to do this another way that feels like me. So I'm going to keep my prices really low. I'm going to give away a ton of bouquets. I'm not going to be pushy. I'm not going to be salesy. And Jen, I think that's the most beautiful sentiment, but it's not only is it not realistic, but it's misguided. You are going to go out of here's what I have to say to those people. It's that if that is how you set out to do this business, you aren't going to be in business 2 years from now. You're going to burn out. It's not going to pay off. Life is going to get in the way, and you'll close your doors. And I used to not say this out loud because I didn't want to discourage people, but I am more than happy to say this out loud now because it's the reality. I've seen so many farmers in my kind of cohort, as well as mentors of mine, as well as people who've come in the doors after me. I've seen them stop farming because it didn't pan out. They weren't able to put enough money in their pocket. So what's better? You selling flowers for pennies or for $10, $15 for these big, beautiful bouquets because you want to be good to your community, and you sell a couple hundred bouquets over a few years and then you go out of business. Versus if you figure out what you need to charge to stay in business and charge more appropriate prices, still probably cheaper than local florists, but probably more expensive than the local grocery store selling imported flowers. You're charging more than that. You're charging prices that feel high to you right now. They feel unfair to you right now. But you know what? You're going to stay in business for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You're going to sell flowers at prices that work for you, and you're going to find customers that will pay those prices, customers who would love to pay those prices because they believe in you and they're tapped into your story. And guess what? You can give back with your business in a million different ways. You can create programs for the underserved in your communities. You can give away flowers to senior citizens. You can do all the do-gooder stuff you want, but that is separate from you and your sales and your pricing. I have so much to say to the do-gooders out there. I want to give them a hug, and then I want to give them a kick in the butt, because it's misguided. I want to help them keep doing good by staying in business in a way that supports their family and their community in the long run.
Thank you for sharing those myths that are such common misconceptions, I think, with a lot of new growers. So let's talk about the mindset then. So if someone has been growing their garden and they probably have had a lot of flowers and they've been giving them away, how do they shift their mindset to be able to start charging for those flowers? What are some of those limiting beliefs that they maybe need to release to be able to charge for those flowers or charge their worth?
Right, exactly. I mean, it's so interesting because, as I've said, flower farming is hard. It's a hard road. But with new flower farmers just starting to get a business off the ground and start making money and selling flowers consistently, the biggest thing holding people back is their own brains. Like that need to stay safe. And so Jen, I know you're a big kind of mindset student, and I think you probably could teach me worlds about mindset and personal development. But I find with the farmers I coach, they have so many underlying fears that are not even keeping them from dreaming big, but keeping them from taking the small steps they need to be taking to start building the business that they're dreaming about. And you've hit the nail on the head. This kind of mindset that selling your flowers or aiming to make a profit is somehow dirty or pushy or salesy. It's just so not true. So once we can reframe it and really think about selling as a service, as the fact that you have this goal of growing flowers and getting them out to your community, guess what? That's wonderful. To get those bouquets, to get those flowers, people are going to buy them. And to buy them, they need to be paying prices that is helping you stay, prices that are keeping you in business, prices that are going to help you stay in business, you know? So again, if you're selling a $20 bouquet that costs you $18 to grow, you won't have any more bouquets to sell in 2 years. And just a real caveat, real quick, real side note here, no one knows their costs. So, if you're a brand new flower farmer and you're thinking, I don't know how much it costs me to grow a bouquet or a flower, you're not alone, and that's okay. So at this point, you need to take my word for it. You are not going to be making enough money selling at that price. I made this poster a few years ago. I call it the flower dollar poster. I'll share it with you, Jen, for your show notes. But it shows that on a small scale flower farm, usually the owner is going to be pocketing like 25 to 40% of their total sales as profit. And we could define that differently. But basically, if I'm selling a $25 bouquet, at the end of the day, maybe $5 of that is going in my pocket. And so you can imagine that if you're selling flowers at this really low level, again, I'm just repeating myself over and over, I realize, but you won't be here in a few years. You just won't. And I want you to be here in a few years. I think the world still needs more flowers. I think our country and all the students and the farmers I work with in all these other countries, so I know you probably have a wide listener base too, Jen. We still need more flowers. We still need more flower farms. And I know you might be listening from a really crowded marketplace. You might have 5 farm stands on your street and you're saying, Lennie, you're crazy. We don't need more flower farms. Yes, we do. I promise you we do. And we're still competing with imported flowers for the most part. So you need to be here. You need to be in business. And I think when we just get started, if we hear the loudest voices around us and we let those voices like seep into our brains and keep us small. And that just feeds into this mindset that keeps us small. So you might have a vocal neighbor or maybe your first farmer's market customer who's complaining about your prices or comparing your prices to the farmer down the street. And you might take that loud voice to heart because it's the only one you can hear because you haven't interacted with that many people yet when it comes to selling your flowers. But just because someone is giving you that feedback doesn't mean it actually has anything to do with your business and your flowers. Other people have no idea how hard it is to grow flowers. And when I say other people, I mean the general public, like the people walking by your stand at the farmer's market or walking by your farm stand or walking by your flowers at the pop-up. They have no idea that only $5 from that $25 bouquet is going into your pocket. They also have no idea that when they shop with you, another $5 that they spend on that bouquet is going to support the local compost company or is going to pay your first part-time worker, and you're aiming to pay that person a living wage, not just like money that no one could actually live on. Whereas if they buy from the grocery store, they don't know where that money is going. It's going out of the community. It's going to some farm in another country that sprays their flowers like crazy and exploits their workers, right? So not only is it more expensive for us to grow flowers, but our money that we take in from our customers is staying in our community. So we need to remember these things and not be kept small and not keeping our prices low because of the naysayers. And there will be naysayers because those people, those nasty people, they're loud. They like to be heard. They love to tell you that they could buy a bouquet twice as big as yours for half the price at Trader Joe's. And my new response to them is like, great, could you get me a 6-pack and some chips while you're there? Because it's they don't know. And so it's not always up to us to educate them or convince them. If you want to take that stance, that's wonderful. And in general, we could all be helping our industry by educating the public a little at a time. But if you have someone in your face or on your social media complaining to you about prices, let them. You know what I mean? Let them do that. They don't know about you and your business. So in terms of coming back to the question here about what emotional or mindset shifts we need to make, we need to remember that charging adequate prices is going to keep us in business, and it's going to support the good we are trying to do in our community. So listen to yourself, listen to people like Jen, listen to me, listen to the people who have made it in this industry and who know what actually is happening out there with flower farms. Don't listen to the random complaints from the random cranky woman down the street. She knows nothing about you. She knows nothing about our industry. And she's not the kind of customer you need to connect with to grow your business anyways. That customer is out there. It's just up to you to start telling your story and connecting with them authentically so that they want to support you.
I love that you just said that, because I was just about to chime in that when you tell that story and you are authentic, people want to support your story. Like when I went to the farmers market this year and did a couple pop-ups, because with our last farm space, we pretty much wholesaled and we had a CSA. But now that we have a bigger space, you and I have talked about this of like, I've got to get my name out there. And to bring people to my farm, I needed to tell the public, hey, we exist beyond just wholesale.
Yeah.
So showing up at the farmers market, I had been so vocal about our story that so many people stopped and bought bouquets that just said, I've been following your story. I'm so excited. We drive by your new farm. I wanted to buy a bouquet because your flowers are beautiful and I want to support the work that you're doing for this community. So that's such a true mindset that people, if you tell your story and bring people along on the journey, they want to support you. But the other thing I noticed at the farmers market, because I would try that, our farmers market is neat. Before it opens to the public, the vendors can go and shop each other. So I would walk around and try and support other vendors and buy products. Well, if you look at the cost of vegetables, if you're paying $6 for an heirloom tomato, you can't charge $6 or $5 for a bouquet. I know that, and I'm not saying all vegetable growers do this, but I did notice there were a few vegetable growers that have like small side bouquets of flowers that are maybe $5 or $10. But it's like, if you pay $6 for a tomato, how long do you get to enjoy that tomato? You enjoy that tomato for what, 5 minutes while you're maybe eating a BLT sandwich or
Yeah.
eating it. But that bouquet of flowers, you're getting at least 7 days out of it. You are enjoying that flower, that those flowers are bringing beauty to your table for a week. So if you are selling that experience, I mean, what does a beer cost? A beer, I don't drink beer, but a pint of
Right.
beer
$6. I don't
is
know.
is
Probably
six
more than that
bucks.
these days. Nice
And if you
beer.
buy one beer a day, how much money are you spending a week? That's
Yeah.
40 something dollars. So is it really that much to spend $35 on a bouquet of flowers? So I love the mindset that what I was telling myself is what I'm doing matters because I'm bringing joy and beauty to people, and I deserve to be paid a living wage for what I'm doing. And I noticed you use the word and multiple times, but when you think about your mindset and you think about what am I giving to my customer or my client, and how is this benefiting me, that mindset has changed everything for me in thinking, okay, I'm giving them this and my
Yes.
business gets to benefit too for the mindset shift.
Yes. I love that. And it's so interesting. I really wanted to tackle these mindset questions at the Sell Your Flowers Summit. And so our conversation, even over the past 5 minutes, it reinforced some of the sessions that I created for the summit, and I'm like excited about it all over again. Really genuinely, authentically excited, because it's reminding me how important these concepts are. You know, we have an amazing marketing coach, Claire Sellers, coming. I think it's probably her first talk ever given for flower farmers, and she's giving a talk on how to keep your eyes on the prize, focus on what you're doing, and not give any of your precious time or attention or bandwidth to that vegetable farmer selling the $5 zinnias, or that woman down the street selling the $10 bouquets. Because especially when you're brand new, you can't help but worry about those competitors of yours. I hear this every day. Like, Lennie, how can I possibly offer bouquets for $30 when my neighbor sells them for 10? How can I do this when this person's doing this? But I'm here to tell you, like, you listening out there, that farmer is not your problem. You would be so much better to completely forget about them. I mean, I'm all about community. I'm not saying forget about them as a person. Be their friend. That's wonderful, but don't fixate on them. They are not a problem for your business. You worrying about your competition is such a bigger problem than your actual competition. And so we have this talk at the summit about exactly how to do that, how to put your blinders on and focus on what you're doing. And we have another talk, Jen, about how to, you and I keep referring to like being authentic and connecting to your customer base and your followers. We have a talk from a flower farmer of exactly how to do that. Tasha from Palm Pike, who is so awesome, has such a fun social media. She's 100% herself. And that's the name of the game. You know, when people hear you have to be authentic on social media, they think that means you need to bare your soul. You need to dance on reels. You need to like show off your kids and, you know, do all these kind of things that might feel cringy. Some people love doing those things. And if that's the case, great. But if that's not you, that's wonderful. You don't have to do any of that. You know, I remember back in, I think it was like 2015, we were putting on an ASCFG conference, and we had Erin Bendicane come to give a talk. And I introduced her for this talk, so I'll never forget it. It was sort of one of our bigger conferences. And, you know, Erin doesn't do many in-person events, but she gave this talk at the conference, and it was, I think the title was Being the Face of Your Business. So I remember, you know, saying, here's Erin Bendicane from Floret here to teach us how to be the face of her business. And she gave this talk that people have been referring to ever since for the past 10 years. And it went along with sort of the arm load, the classic like Floret arm load shot. That people have been doing for years. And I'm sure people have been taking pictures of themselves with flowers for as long as there's been photography. But that talk really resonated with people and stuck in their brains. And she was there to, you know, I think her whole idea behind it was like, connect with your people. It was exactly what we're talking about. Tell them your story, put yourself front and center. But I think for a lot of shy people and a lot of nervous people, that idea makes them even more nervous, because they think, I'm never going to be good at this if I don't feel like myself on camera, if I don't like how I look, if I don't want to show my kids' faces, any number of reasons, if I don't want to bare my soul. But I'm here to tell you, like, that's not what Erin meant. Erin didn't mean you need to bare your soul. We need to do what Tasha is doing. We need to be ourselves on social media and in our email. So if you're funny, lean into being funny. If you're like poetic, be poetic. If you're a woman of few words, rely more heavily on the photos and keep your captions like short and punchy. There are so many different people out there, customers, potential customers, waiting to connect with you and your farm's story, and you never know what's going to resonate with them. Maybe they love the fact that maybe they love your humor. I mean, I'm just relying on my same example, but maybe they love your humor. Maybe they love seeing your excitement with the first flower from each crop type that blooms every year. Maybe they love seeing how you set up your farm stand in the morning, because that gives them ideas for their farm stand. Maybe they just need like a breath of fresh air in the middle of the day, and seeing your beautiful photos without many words on them gets them through their day, or reminds them how beautiful this place they live is if they live close to you. You know, there's just so many different little feelers we can send out for people to grab onto. So it doesn't mean telling them what you accomplished in therapy yesterday. Again, it doesn't mean telling your most embarrassing stories. We think of the classic kind of oversharers that we all know and love to hate on social media. That's not what Erin meant. That's not what I mean. We mean what Tasha is doing. Being yourself, telling your story. And marketing is really all about attraction and like repulsion, right? There's a smoother way of saying that, but not everyone is going to resonate with everything about you or your farm, but they're going to tap into it and remember it if it has personality, if it has you in it, you know? So, you know, like linking it back to the summit, all of the sessions, we have about 15 sessions over the course of 3 days. And each one of them is solving one of these problems. If you have the problem that you don't know how to be yourself on social media, come to Tasha's session. You know, if you have the problem where you don't know how to stop fixating on your competition, come to Claire's talk. If you need real nuts and bolts pricing strategy, come to my pricing strategy talk. You know, so everything we're talking about is just it's so painful for new flower farmers. And I'm glad we're talking about it at length, Jen, because I remember that pain. I remember those nerves of like just wanting to hide behind my flowers. I didn't want to talk about them because it felt pushy. It felt inauthentic. I didn't want to be the face of my business because I was like, isn't that self-important of me? Isn't that me like saying I want the spotlight? That's not the case at all. You want your flowers to have the spotlight, and you want to connect with people. Yeah, thanks for listening to my TED Talk, Jen.
That was a good one. Well, I think you've got a lot of listeners probably excited about this summit. So we've been talking a lot today. Let's spin this here and tell our listeners exactly what the summit is, when it is, and how they can find more information out about it.
Yes. So the Sell Your Flowers Summit, it's November 20th, 21st, 22nd. I was really, really excited to make this conference super accessible for people. You know, my courses, my programs, my other programs are really meaty and big, and they're a high price point. You know, a Flower Farming Business Academy, my 6-week signature business course, is an investment. And I've been really happy and proud over the years to make my programs accessible in specific ways. You know, I have a scholarship of 50% off for farmers of color for my big programs. And I've seen, I don't know if it's 100 farmers yet, take me up on that over the years, but it's at least in the high tens. I should probably count. I guess maybe approaching 100 flower farmers who have taken my course and used that scholarship. And I'm looking for ways to create more scholarships and more grants going forward, not just for farmers of color, but for all types of farmers and new farmers. So I wanted to bring that kind of idea of accessibility to this conference. So it's really affordable. And they're also free tickets. You can't get much more affordable than free, right? So if you want to come and have access to the sessions during the weekend for 24-hour access for each day, you can come and grab a free ticket. And then if you want additional resources, more hands-on support, bonus sessions, and most importantly, probably lifetime access to the sessions, you can upgrade to an all-access pass. And there's a few different price points, but they're all under $200. So the All Access Pass is a great way to get worksheets that go along with every session to help you implement them and to give you a bunch of resources going forward and bonuses. So the summit is really based around community. We have a Facebook group. There's already a few hundred people in there. We're recording this podcast, of course, a few weeks before it will go live. But in our first day of ticket sales, we already have hundreds and hundreds of people who grabbed tickets and who joined the Facebook group and are already sharing their wins from the past season. We have a secret podcast feed, Jen. I took notes from you and your wonderful podcast here of how to be a podcaster. And we have a secret podcast feed going out to people who have signed up for the summit and in fact been on our wait list. But it's 3 days of talks. I've shared a few of them with you here today. They are all 20-minute sessions. So that's something really important to me and really different from a lot of conferences that I've both put on in the past and been a speaker at and been an attendee at. So you're not going to sit there and fall asleep in your chair. You're going to be at home watching these sessions. A lot of them are pre-recorded, wonderful little slideshows with nuance, with direct calls to action, and, no long rambling intros, no long rambling overviews. This is exactly what to do to price your flowers, exactly what to do to get ahead of this mindset shift, exactly what to do to start building your email list. It's really based on giving you the skills and the confidence to sell more flowers in 2026. Whether you're a few years in, but you've been sort of slacking on the sales and marketing, or what you've done hasn't tried, or you've been too nervous to try, or whether you haven't even planted a flower yet, planted a seed yet, but you've listened to me, you've listened to my calls, you need to start thinking about selling those flowers before they're blooming. So I'm like beaming with pride about this summit. I've not done it alone. I have an amazing partner in this, Angie Machado, who's an email marketing expert and has been a colleague of mine for a few years and is a guest teacher in my program and teaches about all sort of marketing, but she's my summit manager. And so she's my project manager for this. And it's really been a collaborative effort for her to help me get all my ideas out of my brain and into this multifaceted 3-day event where we're going to have, thousands of attendees. And we have some great sponsors on board as well. Small Farm Works, Farmer Bailey, your podcast, Jen, your wonderful podcast, the Flower Podcast. There's a few more sponsors coming on as we speak. So I'm just thrilled to be putting this on. And I think there's no reason not to be there on November 20th.
Awesome. And it is all virtual, so you can watch it from the comforts of your home anywhere in the world.
All virtual. Exactly. And we'll also be announcing during the summit that I'm launching something new. I'm finally starting, what we call these days a membership. And so I've been doing these coaching groups for a few years now. It's business therapy for flower farmers, small group coaching. But I'm taking that down a notch and adding a more accessible level to that, where you can join the B-side membership starting this November and every month get specific actionable strategy from me around this stuff, sales, marketing, and we'll have community support and homework and large community sessions where you can get to know other flower farmers and exactly what they're going through. So you'll hear about that at the summit. I get so many emails and DMs and faxes. No, just kidding. Like every way that you can hear from people, I hear from flower farmers looking for help, looking for support. And so I want to have something to offer even the flower farmer who's not ready for a big course or who doesn't want to take a big course. Not everyone needs to take a course, but I'm trying to find ways to work with more of the people who reach out to me looking for help. So I love community. I love supporting my students. I love collaborating with my students. I love hearing from them. And so I'm just really, really proud to be a part of this industry and really grateful. I honestly pinch myself every day to be where I am, having built a career where I get to coach flower farmers on what actually will help them build a business that will support them throughout the course of their life.
Well, I think it's awesome what you're doing. Most of our listeners know, because I talk about it often, that I'm a huge believer in personal development. I also heavily believe in courses and online learning. My philosophy is if someone else has already mastered this, why not utilize their knowledge that they're willing to share to help you get to that next level that much faster? And I think that both the marketing, selling, and the mindset piece all go so hand in hand that when you can master those things, you can get to that next level faster. And so for many of the people at your summit, that is mastering, how can I start making money on this thing that I love so much? I mean, for so many of us, we started with the love of flowers and we had to find a way I just recently attended, I'm part of Brendan Burchard's mastermind. It's a year-long commitment. It's called Ultra. And he said something this month when we were in person in Arizona. He said, you can make money pretty much anywhere and in a lot of areas, but where do you want to make money? And once you decide where you want to make money, then you got to go all in on that and really focus on that one thing. And I think that's what your summit's going to do for our listeners who want to get this start is if you've decided you want to make money in flowers, here's your opportunity to learn from some of the industry's best. So thank you for hosting this. I've got 2 more questions for you. The first one is for those listening today that are just starting to dream about selling their flowers, what is one small actionable step they can take this week?
Yeah. This week, I want you to think back on your year. And, maybe you have sold a few bouquets, maybe you've sold a number of bouquets, maybe you've just given away a few bouquets. I want you to think of 3 people who are either your top customer or who have been most supportive of you and this dream, wherever you are on the road. And I want you to find a way to thank them. If you still have flowers, if it hasn't totally frosted for you yet, I'd love for you to make each one of them a bouquet. If not, make them a dried flower wreath or make them an evergreen wreath, whatever. Package up some saved seeds, write them a card and just thank them. This is going to go so long to teaching you how to identify your best customers, your biggest supporters, and nurturing that relationship so that they'll stay with you and then they'll want to tell other people about you. And then you'll know how to spot people like that in the future as well. And then I also want you to think about one missed opportunity from this year. And so again, if you haven't even started yet, you've got a world of missed opportunities. You haven't tried any of them yet, but maybe one idea of where you're going to sell flowers next year, if that's you. And if you're a few years in, what was one missed opportunity? Did you sell flowers at the coffee shop and every week there were people asking you if they could come do a farm tour? Maybe that's your sign to put together a farm tour for this next season. Maybe you were all ready to do full service weddings this year and you put the word out and you had a sales page for full service weddings on your website, but you didn't get enough traction with that. But you found that you were able to sell out your subscription. Is there a way that you can replicate your subscription in the next town over? Start with a new business. Like, what's the low-hanging fruit of something you did this year but you didn't do fully that you could expand on for next year? And I want you to start paying attention to the data. And data can be a really big word for people, but it just means what happened. Look at what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, and where are there opportunities for growth in the future.
I love that. You mentioned the word thankful, which leads me to it's my second to last question for you. Because this is airing in November, which is a month of gratitude, I would love to ask you, what is one thing you are grateful for right now?
Ooh, I am grateful just thinking about all the speakers at my summit. I'm grateful to all my mentors. I'm grateful to mentors of mine who are speaking at the summit or people who have come up with me or before me. Lisa Mason Ziegler, the Gardener's Workshop. There's no one listening to this who doesn't know Lisa Mason Ziegler, but she's just wonderful and has been a friend of mine ever since I was on the board of the ASCFG with her. And then she's been a mentor and a colleague. And I teach a course through the Gardener's Workshop now, and she's coming on and giving a talk about kind of leaning into your customers, cultivating deep relationships with your customers. And I'm just grateful for her leadership in our industry. Same with Ellen Frost, who's a speaker at my summit, which I'm so excited about. Ellen has really shown us how beautiful this relationship between flower farmer and florist can be. And she's giving a talk around pricing, like how to create a really simple pricing menu that reads to your customer as simply as a fast food menu. I just love this concept. So I'm grateful for them. I'm grateful to Frank and Pamela Arnosky and just all the flower farmers who have been so gracious to me over the years. And as I visited all their farms years ago, as I was building mine and starting to realize that I wanted to circle back around to my lifelong love of teaching and really become a teacher and a coach. And as I started to build this educational business, just all these flower farmers, there's just too many to name, but the generation ahead of me has just been so gracious. And I believe so strongly in community. And I hope that all the new flower farmers out there are, you know, really embracing this attitude of thankfulness to all of our mentors. And then they're finding ways to turn around and be as gracious and generous with the people coming in the door behind them, because there are a lot of us and it's wonderful.
I love that. Well, you are one of my mentors, and I'm grateful for you and grateful that you are hosting this summit to help all of those who are newer into growing their flowers get a good start in this industry. Because, like you said, our competitors are not our other flower farmers. When 80% of our flowers are still imported, that's our true competition. And until we see
Yes.
those numbers start to swing, I don't think that we can say that we're really competing with our fellow flower farmers. I just yesterday had Paul Matalucci from Apple Core Farm out at my farm, and we were walking through my dahlia seedlings, and we were talking about, he's like, I'm so booked for the next 2 years already, and in 27. And he goes, do you need some of these dates? I'll start referring people to you. And it's like that community over competition
Yes.
is such a powerful thing in the industry we're in. And so I'm just really grateful to be in an industry that has that mindset, that there are so many amazing people like yourself and these other leaders who are pouring into those who are newer. So, my final question, Lennie, for you today is there anything that I haven't asked you today that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I'd like to just circle back to the people pleaser who's starting a business for the first time. And I really want you out there to hear my words and hopefully take them to heart. You needing to be strategic and to aim for making a good profit and even a healthy profit is 100% service to your community. And the two things aren't two different sides of a coin, or like they're not opposed in the way you think they're opposed. You building a business around flowers is a wonderful, beautiful thing, and it is serving your community. And in order to continue serving your community, you're going to need to make it make sense as a business. And that's not a burden. That's just how it is. And it's fun. It's fun. And you won't feel ready to start marketing and selling. And if you wait until you feel ready to start an email list or to announce your farm on social media or to start talking to people about your flowers, if you wait until you're ready, you'll never do it. The students of mine who have the biggest breakthroughs start taking steps, even if they have to close their eyes and hold their nose and just jump in. It will get easier, and it's a muscle you need to build and flex. All this stuff takes practice. So it's time to jump in and do this amazing, beautiful work of building a flower farm.
Awesome. Lennie, thanks so much for taking time today to share about some of the tips and advice for those who are wanting to get started with selling their flowers and actually making a profit doing so. We will include show links today for people to find you on social media, your website, and of course, for a link to access tickets to the Sell Your Flowers Summit, which is taking place November 20th through
Yep,
22nd.
exactly.
And that's 2025. So if you're listening to this after the summit is taking place, the first inaugural Sell Your Flowers Summit, November 20th through 22nd.
Yes, I'll see you there.
Thanks so much for joining us, Lennie. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, flower friends, for joining us on another episode of the Backyard Bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable gardening insights we've shared today. Whether you're cultivating your own backyard blooms or supporting your local flower farmer, you're contributing to the local flower movement, and we're so happy to have you growing with us. If you'd like to stay connected and continue this blossoming journey with local flowers, don't forget to subscribe to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast. I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave us a review of this episode. And finally, please share this episode with your garden friends. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember that every bouquet starts right here in the backyard.